Appearances can be deceiving, and few exemplify this better than Ed Kemper, infamously known as the co-ed killer, standing at an imposing 6 feet 5 inches and weighing over 300 pounds. Kemper's seemingly harmless demeanor and soft-spoken charm often disarmed those around him. Yet, beneath the facade of Big Eddie was a calculating and cold-blooded killer who shocked the world with his heinous crimes. Kemper's above-average intelligence, his apparent friendly behavior, and the dark contrast in his characters have made him a subject of fascination for criminal psychologists. This contrast has made him the subject of too many documentaries, studies, and even TV shows like Mindhunters. Welcome back to Prison Stories. In this episode of Prison Story, we will try to dissect a serial killer's mind. What set Kemper apart from others? What were the dark fantasies that made him do those horrible crimes, and why was he compelled to act on them? Kemper was born on December 18, 1948, in Burbank, California. Right from the start, Kemper had all the red flags of psychosis. Add that to his difficult upbringing made him a complex person. His parents separated. His mother, being of a sour temperament, was very critical of him. Kemper put a lot of blame of who he is on his mother. When he was 10 years old, she forced him to live in the basement, away from his sisters, whom she feared he might harm in some way. He used to lay awake afraid of his surroundings in that basement, and it was here that he started having his dark fantasies. The demeaning behavior of his mother might have been instrumental in shaping Kemper's personality, but we shouldn't be blind to his nature. Inflicting pain on animals and cutting dolls' arms were his usual games that showed a morbid attitude right from the start. His first victims were the family cats. At 10, he buried one of them alive, and the second he slaughtered with a knife. Yes, his mother's behavior with him proved instrumental in pushing him further down the road to his dark fantasies. He went to live with his father for some time, but that too didn't work, and thus ultimately he was sent to paternal grandparents in North Fork, California. Living with grandparents was also traumatic for young Kemper, as his grandmother behaved pretty much like his mother. He was a difficult teen, and the behavior of grandparents was not helping. That led to rage building inside him, ultimately shooting the grandmother, and while on his way back, shot the grandfather as well. Kemper went to police and confessed his crimes. Kemper was handed over to the California Youth Authority. He underwent a variety of tests, which determined that he had a very high IQ, but also suffered from paranoid schizophrenia. This could have been enough to give clue to authorities that he was not fit to live in the public. It is interesting to note that from here we can trace Kemper's dual personality. He was dangerous enough to kill his grandparents, yet there was something in his behavior that made him so well liked by medical experts. While being there, he became their assistant in prison, conducting psychiatric tests on other inmates, which helped gain his release in 1969 after they concluded he was not typical of a sociopath. Despite his doctor's advice against living with his mother, Kemper returned to her home in Santa Cruz, California. On the surface, it appeared that life had taken a positive turn for him, but beneath the facade, a stark contrast remained: a friendly, talkative young man harboring the darkest of fantasies. Kemper had applied to become a state trooper, but was rejected due to his size. He stood an imposing 6 feet 9 inches tall and weighed around 300 pounds, earning him the nickname Big Ed. Interestingly, Kemper's struggle with self-perception stemmed not from being short, as is often the case, but from feeling out of place because of his massive stature. Like many other serial killers, Ed Kemper craved public recognition and validation for his crimes. This desire led him to frequent a bar called the Jury Room, where he socialized and drank with the very law enforcement officers who, unknowingly, were investigating him. His police friends nicknamed him Big Eddie and treated him with surprising camaraderie, even giving him training badges, handcuffs, and occasionally letting him borrow their guns. Initially, Kemper picked up female hitchhikers and let them go unharmed. However, between 1972 and 1973, some of these women never made it home. During this time, Kemper escalated, going on to kill 6 female college students. But killing alone didn't satisfy him. He would dismember their bodies and engage in disturbing acts post-mortem. Kemper culminated his 11-month murder spree by bludgeoning his mother to death with a claw hammer, later decapitated her head, and then used it as a dartboard. He then called his mother's friend, and when she came over, strangled her. After committing all of these heinous crimes, Edmund Kemper casually telephoned the local law enforcement authorities to confess what he had done. The unbelievable part of this story is that police initially refused to believe him, thinking that their friend Big Eddie was just pulling a prank on them. After several follow-up calls and the disclosure of information that only the co-ed killer would know, Kemper finally convinced the police that he was the man they sought. He was quickly arrested and charged with 8 murders in the first degree. Kemper was found guilty and given a life sentence. That could have been the end of Kemper's story, but the FBI decided to seek his help in understanding serial killers. This decision revealed a completely different side of him. In the 1970s, the FBI launched a groundbreaking initiative, visiting prisons to interview notorious serial killers in order to gain insights into their motives and psychological patterns. Kemper became a key participant in this project. With his exceptionally high IQ and articulate manner, he was an ideal subject for such interviews. Through these conversations, the real man behind the facade emerged. Far from being just a goofy personality or a gruesome murderer, Kemper provided valuable insights. He not only helped FBI profilers understand the psychology of a serial killer, but also contributed to solving several cases in the future. This is what sets Kemper apart from the rest of serial killers or criminals. He never tried to hide who he was, gave any excuse, other than his mother's foul behavior, or shrugged the responsibility. He made them understand that he was compelled to kill and probably would do it again if given the chance. He understands the threat he posed to the society. On being asked by a magazine reporter during a prison interview how he felt when he saw a pretty girl after killing his mother, he said, "One side of me says, I'd like to talk to her, date her. The other side says, I wonder how her head would look on a stick." Did Kemper regret or feel ashamed of what he did? This is what made him a psychopath and a narcissist. Kemper has no remorse or shame about what he did. After being in prison over 50 years, Kemper told the source's co-worker that there is nothing better than having intercourse with the neck of a decapitated girl. Kemper's apparent social behavior shouldn't be made as blind to his antisocial traits. He could discuss his crimes with a chilling detachment. Part of his role in FBI's profiling of serial killers was that because it fueled his ego, he liked being of value or to be discussed. He described his killings as a way to gain control and exert power, but at the same time, he recognized the cyclical nature of his violent impulses and claimed to have turned himself in to prevent further harm. Even when asked whether he should be out, he simply said no. Anything other than the death sentence would look like I am being biased. Perhaps that's why he was never given parole, neither he attended any meetings. He knew he would do it once out, not because he liked it or think it right, but simply he felt compelled to do it. Ed Kemper's story is a chilling reminder of the human capacity to hide multiple personalities behind a single face. Perhaps the greatest lesson from his life is the importance of recognizing morbid tendencies early on and avoiding the circumstances that allow them to fester. For Kemper, the toxic relationship with his mother acted as a trigger, setting him on a path of destruction from which there was no return. Thank you for watching Prison Stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more compelling stories.